Okay, and we are live with another book and a beverage. We're talking to Scott Palmer, and we had a great conversation before we, went live because that's what we do here. So you get the leftovers now. Thanks for showing up. How's that for an intro?
Can you hear this, Mike?
No.
Oh, you can't?
Nope.
Rose rocking out over there.
Oh, I thought you'd be able to hear it.
I think I hear a cuckoo clock.
That's me.
Oh, okay. I also thought I heard some gears grinding. Is that your brain, Ro?
No, that's definitely not me.
Okay.
Sounds like your cat, maybe?
No, what I was trying to play, I was playing Whiskey and Smokes from the tracks with lead guitar by Scott Palmer. Find it on YouTube, and it's actually pretty good. I'm kind of surprised you guys weren't able to make more headway with your band.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a cool lead-in, but I guess you couldn't hear it, so that sucks.
Hey,
so everybody go look it up.
Also, I should have got you as my marketing guy back in the day, man.
Yeah. But don't look it up until after the show's over.
Yeah, right. Well, have it going in the background.
So, Scott, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, Mike. How are you?
That might be the last time we talk about you in the show, but there's always hope.
The show's not about me, right? I'm one of the hosts. I thought it's Mike and Scott Grill Row.
There you go.
We got rules today.
Yeah.
Put rules up.
Ro's in the hot seat. So, Ro, tell me, what's your book about?
Like my book.
You have a new book?
We're here to talk about A Memory of Song, my man.
Oh, okay.
When you get your YouTube show, you can let me know and I'll come on it and I'll talk all about me for as long as you want.
No, I just want to hijack other people's shows. It's easier that way.
Well, you can do that too.
It makes my job easy if you ask the questions. Just ask Ro and I'll just read the comments.
How did you guys get started in interviewing authors?
Well, man, you really are going to do this. You're going to screw with us because we were at a Comic-Con in
it wasn't Tidewater. It was
it was.
Was it Tidewater? Yeah, miserable show.
Tidewater.
I'm going back.
In Virginia, along Virginia Beach. And you go to a Comic-Con, you just have lots of free time, right? You set up early, you got a couple hours laying around, you got next day, you just have time. And we said, we should do something to maximize our time, make use of these hours that we're not doing jack. We should go around and interview people, right? We'll take a little camera, we'll go interview some people, we'll cut it together. And I think our first 40 videos or so, 30, something like that, Mike?
32, I think.
Yeah, we edited them and put them out like once a week. And then we said, let's try doing it live because it seems like it might be a lot less work. And because, at heart, we're just lazy old men.
That's right. You don't have to edit.
Right. So we started doing it and it's worked out terrific.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you guys just kind of tour Comic-Cons, eh? Mike was talking about hitting up one near me, Grand Rapids.
Yep.
Kalamazoo. So you've done a few, I guess.
Yeah, Mike's doing a lot more than I am. This year, I'm not really doing many at all just because last year was so freaking abysmal.
Okay.
So this year, I'm just very, very moderate. Mike travels all over the place because, he can do that.
So last year, I did 18 shows and it just about killed me.
18?
And I used 22 of my 30 vacation days on Comic-Con. So, my other job.
Yeah.
And my boss, I told my boss, I'm not doing that again. I'm only going to do 10. And he's like, good, because you weren't worth anything last year.
He said that to you? Nice.
So
that's some constructive feedback right there.
No kidding, eh?
So I said, I'm only going to do 10. And then 2 of them that I had scheduled dropped and I added 4 more. So I'm up to 12. But yeah, last year I did this thing and it worked and I tried it again and it worked. I called up friends that I had from high school or a couple of them from college. I said, Ed, you win. You get to host me when I go to the Comic-Con in your city.
There you go. Yeah.
And he's like, come on down. I hadn't talked to Ed in 10 years. His kids were, one was still in diapers. I think the last time I talked to him, he's like, come on down to Jacksonville. And
so he was just happy you weren't trying to sell him a multi-level marketing plan.
No, just books once I got there. And then I tried again with a friend, Neil. I was like, Neil, you win. You get to host me. and I hadn't seen him, God, since high school, probably 93. It was the last time I saw Neil. And I just called him up 30 years later, like, Neil, I'm going to stay at your house in Indianapolis. And he's like, okay, come on. And I'm like, God, that worked?
Yeah.
It is a long-standing theory of mine that two guys who haven't seen each other in 20 years can catch up completely in the time it takes to have a single beer at a bar.
Yeah.
And be back to just kind of watching the world go by, in each other's company, but not really, whereas, a lot of rash generalization coming.
No,
a lot of women get together and it just takes like, oh my, we've only been together 2 days. We're still catching up. Like,
I think there's a lot of truth to that. My best friend in the world, we grew up, we spent the first 14 years of our life together. His parents were in the military and he moved away. And honestly, we go many years between seeing each other and we don't miss a single beat. Like anytime, like I think if you have a past relationship, it's no problem. There's a lot of stuff to catch up on, but it doesn't feel weird at all. Right. It's like,
no, I mean, what's there to catch up on, right? Yep, still married, got a couple of kids. They're doing well. They're in college, whatever.
Yeah.
Job's fine. Still having to work. That sucks. But, and I haven't had anything taken out of my body that's worth mentioning. So,
went to 14 Comic-Cons this year. No big deal.
Right. People do kind of give you the stank eye when you say that.
Yeah, that's right.
Unless they're like super nerds themselves that kind of give you that, you do what now?
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool though. Like to get to go and actually like have a reason. I mean, you're selling your own stuff. I mean, everyone's got a reason, but you know what I mean? Like it's a good excuse to be like, they want me here.
Yeah. Once you pay, they want you.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. They wanted my check to clear.
They wanted my check to clear. Yeah.
But all right. So you are what we got the Canadian connection going again.
Yeah.
EL says your 3-star on Goodreads begins. This is a really good book. Who shat in that reviewer's Cheerios? It does say he'll update.
Oh, I think I did. I saw one. Somebody put. I've read the first few pages, and this is a really good sign so far. And that was a 3-star. I think that he just kind of put just kind of like putting a bookmark in. Like I'm going to start you at 3 stars, and we'll.
That's a dick move. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't call. I'm not going to say that, but I mean.
No, you don't have to. I did.
That's okay.
If you're watching, that's a dick move.
I think people have.
Go update it.
Reviewers have their style of reviewing, and that's just I think that's just not our place to comment, right?
Well, no, I mean if somebody does, you don't comment about it. But here, it's not my review.
That's right. My marketing guy, Ro, he comments for me.
Yeah.
Dr. Rowe and Mike.
Oh, yeah. So you are one of the founders of the Break-Ins, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's our little author group going. It's served us very well in terms of support for each other. So that's been one of my main focuses over the past 4 months, establishing those relationships with these other authors and getting our name out there.
Who started it? Was it? I mean. Well, one of the founders. There's like 16 people in this group, so
I mean
that brainwave.
What it is now, every single member contributed to what it is now. Josh Walker, he's author of Joshua Walker. He's the author of upcoming An Exile of Water and Gold. His book, The Rest of the Gods, is out right now. Him and I started chatting on Twitter in October, end of October of 2023, and basically spitballing. We just saw that each other were in the same space. I saw he had a beautiful website. He saw my maps, and we were kind of just like, hey, as doing it themselves, I could kind of tell he was taking it very seriously, vice versa. We said, hey, why don't we be friends? We can chat. And just over this process of self-publishing, which is so very difficult, you can have a buddy and just somebody to talk to, right?
Yeah.
That went on for about a day or two, and we were like, let's get some other people. It was very slow going at first. We made a public post on Twitter, and not very many people picked up on it. A couple of our early members, Caden Love and KLM Lot, they picked up on these early tweets, and it kind of, after that, Josh and I just started targeting people. We just started DMing authors that we saw in the space, said, hey, do you want to join our Discord? And, it's funny because at first we kind of felt, I don't know, like, this guy's not going to care who we are. We're nobodies. They don't even want to talk to us. And in our experience, we had absolutely nobody said no. So it was, just kind of one of those things, like putting yourself out there is the hard part. And after you've done it, it's the worst that can happen is you're back in the same spot you were before you started. Right.
Right.
And it kind of got to the point where, one day in particular, we had a bunch of new members join, and we were just kind of like, to keep this kind of what we want it to serve as, which is first and foremost, it wasn't for marketing at all. It was for our own personal support, just so the 15 of us had other authors to talk to, just about the process. Like you said, there's so many different things, so many ins and outs, so much lingo to understand. Just to have somebody who even just understands the abbreviation of KDP or KU without having to explain it is just beneficial, and we're all at different stages in publishing. So it allows us to look ahead. It allows us to look back and kind of see what stages people are at, learn from them, apply what we've learned moving forward. And we're kind of just a collective group of 15 minds trying to absorb everything we possibly can about the industry and apply it to all of our own careers.
Do you find that like some of you pick different things? Like, okay, I'm going to figure this out, and you figure this thing out, and then you can teach us what you learn, so we don't all have to learn all of this shit.
There wasn't really any of that assignment. I think that a lot of us realized that some of us had strengths, others didn't, and we just kind of leaned into that. One member in particular is better at, say, social media. One member is better at the tech side of things. You just kind of learn who to ask. And yeah, there wasn't really an assignment or roles per se. It was just whatever you need help with, ask, and hopefully one of us will know, right?
Yeah, awesome.
So, Scott, I have a question, and I'm sorry, but we're going to talk about your book.
Let's do it.
So EL put here that your book is only 99 cents to pre-order.
That's right.
Yep. Nice. And Sam, the tax lawyer, is here. So
Sam Paisley. How's it going, buddy? Sam is quickly becoming one of my best friends in this space. And just quick shout out to Sam. We're right up the highway, 401. We are definitely, when we get together, it is going to be a celebration. I'll tell you that.
No, Canadians getting together. That's always that's a recipe for debauchery right there.
Oh, we're gonna ride mooses, drinking double doubles. It's insane. Oh, Canada.
Hey, that's the only 2 words to the song, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I just put in the next verse.
Oh, wow. Who knew?
Hey, one thing I'll tell you, Canada has a lot of things going for it, both good and bad. But I will tell you one thing is we are very invested in the arts. I've really leaned on my government and tried to extract as much as I could out of them for this endeavor. I'll tell you that. Riding on baby.
Are there like grants and stuff available for indie authors up there?
There are. I've applied. I have not been accepted yet, but I'll just keep applying and we'll hope. I've only applied once, so I haven't learned if I've got turned down yet or not. There's grants available. Not only that, but we get free ISBNs, unlimited. Mm-hmm. So I sign into my website portal. I say I need an ISBN for paperback, and they send me one.
Sweet.
Yeah, and they are. It's not like when you use one from Amazon, where Amazon's listed as the owner. Like they list Scott Palmer as the owner. Like I'm listed as the owner of it, so I can.
All that and free healthcare. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And ISBNs and free healthcare.
And Scott, I have a question for you. It's going to spark a raging debate, I think.
Okay.
But which is better, Canadian maple syrup or Vermont maple syrup?
I've never had Vermont. You think I've had Vermont maple syrup?
You don't know what you're missing.
You got pure Quebec gold, baby. That's what we call it.
We're done.
Look at Sam all about the taxes, eh? I'll tell you though, one of the things Sam brought to the group was and you know what, this is kind of embarrassing to even admit on live television, but I was not thinking about taxes. I just didn't think that was something I needed to worry about till my book was released, and I actually had like a product. Good thing for Sam Paisley. That's not the case.
Well, I mean, taxes are a little weird, right? Because like for the last couple of years, I had an LLC down here, so I had to worry about the taxes.
Yeah.
You can only lose money on an LLC for 3 years in the United States.
Is that right?
And after that, they say, okay, you're done. You're a hobby now.
Yeah.
Great. I'm a fucking hobby, right? I don't need to worry about taxes anymore. Like, and you know, until you start making, you start turning a profit.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of hard to do. I guess for most people, because you are constantly putting stuff into it, right?
Yeah. No.
If you turn a little bit of a profit, then you can actually claim like up to 300 square feet of your house space.
Yeah.
In the United States, right? So that's like another $1,500 or some shit. So there's quite a bit. You have to do pretty well to actually turn a profit.
Yeah, it's similar in Canada. We don't have to claim anything until we earn 30K Canadian.
30,000?
That's right. So I get basically a tax-free business up until that point.
Nice.
But I'm also not claimed. I'm not registered as an LLC. So basically, like you don't register until you start making money.
Well, that makes sense up there, but here our tax laws are so ridiculous, right?
Yeah, they're much stricter for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I even have to abide by them in some cases, especially with Amazon. Like, you know, I had to sign all that to abide by your tax rules, not mine. I am selling on .com, so I mean, we're selling everywhere, but .com is definitely king for.
So here's a dumb question for us. What's your book about?
Oh, great question. So my book is an epic fantasy adventure. It is Braveheart meets A Song of Ice and Fire meets Stephen King, wrapped up into a fleshed out fantasy world where dark magics have nulled the elements. So we are living in a world without fire, without wind, without rain, and the earth will not eat its rot. So everything is just kind of piling up. It's very dark. However, this is not grimdark. It's not pure nihilistic darkness. What it is based off of Celtic mythology very heavily, which is a very romantic, dark undertone to, you know, very dark themes. So we kind of have, you know, everything's dying, but there's a lot of hope. The themes are love and hope, found family. And of course, bad things happen, but
the themes are love and hope. Braveheart, who just gets his guts literally ripped out of his ass at the end.
Yep.
George R.R. Martin and Stephen King.
Yep.
How the hell does love and hope connect
with
those three?
Braveheart is laden with love and hope. So at the end of Braveheart, you remember the part where he gets his guts taken out, but if you don't remember, the king who sees that happen, he decides that he will now fight for Scotland. So William Wallace sacrificing himself gave hope to the rest of the kingdom.
Yeah, which is great, unless you're William Wallace.
Of course. And William Wallace is, you know, he's the scapegoat for the darkness. He's the one that we want the story to be told about, right? So that's kind of the thing that I went with, is you're more interested in the bad stuff and what good is going to come out of that, rather than starting with the good and kind of moving towards the bad again. I liked that kind of switch. You know, a lot of classic fantasy starts at the farm. Things are happy, things are good, and then it gets bad, right? Where in my world, it's really bad, and we're starting to move towards that goodness.
So when you're writing that, do you have to kind of keep telling yourself, okay, we need to, you know, mix it up a little bit here. This can't all be people dying and getting their heads chopped off and shit.
Absolutely. And like when I use death in the book, it's I never just kill people just to be like, someone needs to die now. It's all.
Well, you don't do that. You should do that. It's very therapeutic.
It is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I like to torture myself, Ro, and actually build the characters up and then kill them.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
You know,
When you got a lot invested in them.
that's right. And I think it just comes. I'm just very interested in character work. I've always liked. Like my world started with the map. The story. I'm sure you're familiar with the story of J.R. Tolkien. How he wrote the whole trilogy to serve his language, right? Obviously, it became its own thing after a while, but I have a similar kind of start in that I wrote this to serve the world that I created. So if I was going to have an interesting world, I needed history, I needed mythology, I needed these kind of, the hero's journey stories that we all have interladen with our lives every day that we don't even realize are the basis of every other story that we hear. And that's what I needed to build those stories. And the easiest way to build those stories was to just tell them, just write them.
It's funny you say that, because the story I'm working, the book I'm working on now, I was sitting down, I'd kind of written a couple things down, and I was going to sit down and start writing it, and said, I need a map.
Yep.
And I couldn't actually do anything until I made myself a map. Right. And I spent like a week or two, like sending feelers out to people who made maps. There was one person I saw on Twitter, just absolutely gorgeous map, and I was ready to fucking sell my car to get one made.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I'm booked through 2025. It's like, so, okay, I'm going to make my own damn map again, I guess. And so then I spent, weeks making this map. But then I said, okay, now I can start writing this stuff. But yeah, I couldn't do anything until I had that piece down.
I think it gives atmosphere is a big thing. There's different types of writers, but for me, I'm very atmospheric. Like I tend to add in that first, and on later drafts, I'll add in more character work and stuff. But one of the things that I really struggled with early on was white room syndrome, which is basically you describe a room, but you're like, they went into a room and then he slammed his fist on the table. Like, well, like you didn't describe the room very well. I don't know where this table is. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I had that issue early on, and I think that I almost overcorrected as a writer.
Yeah.
So I just kind of made sure that every description was just over the top, atmospheric, and I really wanted to have that in. And when it comes to fantasy, I mean, like we want the story to be good. Like the story is great, but what people fall in love with is the world, for sure. Like, so the world was always going to be a character. I even had too many POVs in my first drafts, and I knocked it down to 2 POVs just to give the world itself, the world building, more room to breathe. I wanted the world building to take almost center stage, with, the 2 characters kind of guiding you through, giving you that emotional attachment. So you can see this world through somebody's eyes rather than just a narrator. But it was definitely, the character work was definitely serving the world building. Even when it comes down to what the characters believe in, they believe in things that are set into the world. They have deep traditions that are just etched into their souls. And these traditions go long back, like many, many thousands of years back. And I think that kind of thing, it brings the characters to life when they are melded with the fantasy world, when they are one and a part of it. And you feel like not only those characters live there, but hundreds and thousands of people before, for hundreds and thousands of years, have lived there too. That was one of the big things that I was trying to create, and doing that through atmosphere was, I think, probably the most effective way. Senses, making them feel, taste, hear, touch. You know how it is.
Do you ever get to a point though? What you're saying about white room syndrome, absolutely right. I'm right there with you. But do you ever get the feeling that if you overdo it, then it doesn't leave anything to the reader's imagination? Because I often think that it's like, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there and let the reader fill in the blanks, however they want this thing to look, right? And I understand there's you go too far with that, and you're just being freaking lazy, right?
Yeah, no, no, I agree with you. I think there's definitely a medium between the two. And I think that comes with just writing it. You got to write it one way, read it over, get beta readers and get their feedback. And it also comes from I think really understanding what you're trying to write. And I think that in of itself is very difficult. Especially like you said, even when you were trying to come up with the world, like your story, and you needed a world first. I mean, sometimes just having that train of thought that you can just run off of, and you've got that thing that you can always touch back to when you're writing the story. It'll allow you to find that balance, I think. Like, how much do I need to tell here?
Right.
What's important? Like, there's important things you want to keep touching on. Obviously, our favorite books, you'll notice when they repeat a word, usually it means something. So when I'm editing, if I'm repeating words, I'm trying to tell you something, right? I'm trying to make you pay attention to that word for one reason or another. And I think by doing that too, that allows you in the later back ends of the book, if you've established that kind of relationship with your reader where they know, you might just be able to skip a bunch of descriptions and just say the important word that you're trying to get them to recall. And that's the only thing that matters. The rest of the room will fill itself in for them.
Well, what you said about, somebody repeating a word and it means something, perhaps this is just me, right? But I was always that kid in English class who's like, maybe it doesn't mean anything at all.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thrilled to read once that Robert Frost, the poet, on his, I think, like traveling on woods through snowy evening or some shit.
Yeah.
He repeated a line at the end to end it, and many miles to go before I sleep, and many miles to go before I sleep. And they asked him, why did you repeat that? And he said, well, I just couldn't think of anything else. So I just repeated it because nothing else was there, right? So it meant nothing, absolutely nothing. In my first book, I have to edit it and take all this shit out, right? But in it right now, there are things in there that go nowhere, right? And they purposefully go nowhere.
Yeah, it's a red herring.
I wrote them and said, oh, that's kind of cool. I should look at that. And then I went, you know what? No, because sometimes in real life, people say shit and they never go back to it.
Absolutely. And that's like in mystery novels, that would be your red herrings. Like those are authors have fun with that, right? Mystery authors, you'll see them just lacing in these red herrings, purposely sending the readers down these paths, probably sitting in their office laughing, drinking coffee out of golden mugs.
I also have a couple of references in my first few books, very, very hard, probably difficult to find references to your Canadian boys Rush, who, yes, I'm a big Rush fanboy. It's like third show in a row I've mentioned him, but I did mention little things in there, like little snippets of song lyrics in there. So
I did something similar. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's in my novella that's coming up in August. And I just, a line came out. It was the line that came out just had the name of a song. And so it had the name of the band, the line. And about 2 lines down, I had an opportunity, a very cheeky opportunity to just go ahead and throw the title of one of their songs right there. So you get the title of the band. And then 2 lines later, there's one of their songs.
Who is it? What band?
Okay, I'll tell you guys. So it's I'm talking about. I have it's based off of like this old Roman, the purple robes, right? So these guys are wearing these deep purple robes, and I used a little poetic line a couple lines later to say something drifted like smoke on the water.
Very nice.
And I was like, I'm just going for it. I don't even care. It's cheesy, it's corny, but it's my book. I love this song. And it was the first song I ever learned on guitar. Okay, so that's one of the things.
Everybody does, right?
We'll have that. But it was one of the things I was like, this is a great homage. It's not just a throwaway homage. It's a little, this is how I got started into art, essentially, right? With this song. So here it is. Just threw it in there.
It's, you got to have that kind of stuff, I think, sometimes just to kind of keep you going through it so you can kind of have a little chuckle to yourself.
Definitely.
And, nobody else might ever know, but it's there at least. One of so my main character in my current series, he has a son named Elwood. Elwood is Neil Peart's middle name.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
That's the only reason his name is Elwood.
Okay, cool. I've definitely done that with names and then reversed the name. So I've just taken a very obvious name and then spelt it backwards. I'm not going to reveal that because I want people to find that. But
okay.
I've definitely put a ton of little Easter eggs. I have so much fun with that. And it comes from, I think I add all those things in later edits. I've had people ask me like, how did you think of that? I was like, oh, I didn't.
It was 3 in the morning and I was stoned, and
that came much later.
how long is Memory of Song?
So A Memory of Song is 150,000 words. Roughly, it's a little over that, 151,335, something like that. So 606 pages at like your normal kind of paperback that you'd expect. So it's about average for a traditionally published first book, maybe a bit longer. I had a little bit of leeway. Like I said, I was originally planning to query this, so I wrote it to appeal to publishing houses. The fact that it's about the right length and that it is a standalone story, meaning it's a series. It's the first of a series, but you get the whole picture. You get a whole story, I should say, in the first one. The best example I can give, I usually use, is The Hunger Games. Right. Not comparing my book to The Hunger Games, but in that first book, you start the games and then the games end, and then you have the fallout afterwards, right? So you've got your one big main event in this, which is essentially the elements have stopped working. And it's to establish the entire series. That's why it's actually planned to be 4 books, because I needed this first book to kind of establish everything, and now it's a trilogy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Your first book's almost like a prologue.
Basically, yeah, 150,000 word prologue.
We're all guilty of that.
Yeah. So there's 2 characters in this first one. I had a 3rd character in the first draft, which made it about 195,000 words before it was even finished, and it was too long. I cut that character, and they're in the third, like the second and third, like their arc is just pushed forward. There was room for them to come in the later books, but just working with some editors, we decided it was going to be a much better story if I just focused on these 2, and then I could use those 2 to latch onto as our main characters moving forward and bring in more POVs. I like to bring in POVs who, some of them you've already met in book 1, and some of them are brand new, to push the world down. So I've got heavily based in the north part of the map in this first book, and the second book covers everything. We just expand right into.
Do you give your antagonist a POV?
No, I didn't. I didn't go that route. I experimented with that in the very early chapters, because I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and when I first started writing, I read The Dead Zone by him when I first started writing this, and he does that really great in that book, where he's the protagonist and the antagonist back and forth, and it is incredibly compelling. And I really did want to try to write a thriller in that way, but the style of writing that I have, it didn't work. I fell more into, I wanted to write more of a thriller style where they were short chapters. Honestly, anyone who's read my book could probably tell you these are not short chapters. It didn't end up working out that way. My chapters are like 4,000 to 5,000 words long.
Holy hell.
It's because each chapter is a story. So every chapter is a short story, essentially. And you'll get a little bit of an arc in every single chapter. Every chapter is named with an appropriate title that I spent time actually considering for the story that you get in that chapter. And that style of writing just did not serve having the antagonist as a POV, unfortunately. I wanted to establish a more, you kind of don't really know what's going on, because I wanted to bring those perspectives in later on. So with having, it's essentially, I think it's pretty safe to say, I don't think it's too much spoilery to say that my character, one of them, I won't get into specifics, but there is a bit of a unreliable narrator situation going on. And for that to work, I could not have the antagonist. I couldn't have everything be as clear as that. You couldn't really see the motivations of the antagonist because they weren't really, what you thought.
It's interesting. I was thinking about this today on a walk, because in my first series, I had the antagonist, it would be head hopping, right? You get a couple chapters with the protagonist, a couple chapters with the antagonist. Yep. And I really like doing that because it lets me know, right, what they're thinking and why they're doing what they're doing, right?
Oh, it's compelling.
I started thinking about it, right? It's like, Sauron doesn't have a POV, right?
Yeah.
But he has Saruman, who lets you know why he's doing what he's doing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's that kind of thing. Voldemort doesn't have a POV,
Yeah.
right? And he's also a shitty antagonist. But
yeah. Well, I think those two, bro, those work because those two styles of narration are a bit more of an omniscient narrator, I think, right? I'm pretty sure JK, she uses a bit of an omniscient style at times.
Yeah, you can see like people all over the place doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's easier for her to kind of get that across, I think. I really fell in love with obviously I know you guys and how you feel about George R. R. Martin, but I really fell in love with his style of writing. And when I first read Joe Abercrombie, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want. Like George R. R. Martin and Joe Abercrombie have this style of character writing that is just so intense. It's so intensely the character. There's no room for any narration. So like the narration you get in James's POV, it's James talking to you. It's not me. There's no narrator. Like you're only getting his head. And then when Wolfie's chapters jump over, it feels different. It almost feels like you're reading a different book in senses because the narration's completely different.
Yeah, I mean that's as it should be, right?
Yeah, that's
you got a totally different person doing it.
Exactly. And I think that, like when you're doing that, if you're going to put the antagonist in and you're trying to accomplish that style of writing, you need to go all in with the antagonist. Like you need to treat the antagonist as you're treating your protagonist, which is to give every little bit of detail. And it's really fascinating. Like I said, I wrote 2 novels before A Memory of Song that will never see the light of day. But I did write one of them in that style where I was using the antagonist point of view. And I think it's like you said, Ro, is that it's so easy, especially when you're first starting to write. And it's hard for you to see the ending, especially like in your very first novel where you've never even finished something. And you're writing, you don't know how this is going to turn. Like, how the heck do you just keep writing, right? And then it all comes together. Mm-hmm. But then, you kind of learn as you go. And
like shaking his head. No.
I think, it's a very, very beneficial technique when you're first starting out to go back and forth like that, because you do get the whole story. You get both sides. You can see these two things coming in on each other and moving towards each other. And it's a really easy way to help learn how to build anticipation. Like, how do you build intensity? How do you build angst in a moment? Well, it's really easy when you're going back and forth with this person wants this and this person wants the opposite, right? And they're tugging and warring. But how do you get that in when you don't know the antagonist? It's a little bit harder.
And it's also more difficult to give the antagonist any kind of sympathetic characteristics if you're not doing that, right?
Absolutely.
You can't make him or her, you can't give them that kind of, what they're doing isn't cool, but the reason they're doing it is kind of valid, right?
No, that's totally right. Like, and I think people love that. That's a very popular genre. I guess that's basically grimdark fantasy, right? These gray characters on both sides. So it's hard.
Thanos, man.
Yeah.
That's not grimdark, but if you look at it from a strictly kind of Machiavellian or a strictly objective viewpoint, Thanos was right.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Right. Yeah, you want to go there for sure. And that's actually one thing that I deal with heavily. The Thanos situation is something that I touched on in my book. I think it's something that anyone who's touching on the end of the world, if you're trying to write a mythology fantasy that is dealing with life and death stakes in the terms of the world will end if you do not accomplish this.
Right.
I think you kind of have to consider that Thanos question, right? Why, for instance, like in my book, we have the elements have been nulled. The elements are not working, but there's somebody behind this. There's a group, an organization behind this. And what are their motivations, right? It seems like these people are pretty bad. I mean, this is not good, right? But, as we reveal their motivations and we kind of get to understand what they're doing, like you said, the Thanos situation, he's right. So I really wanted to leave people thinking, wait a minute, did the antagonist do the thing he was supposed to do? Like, is he a hero? Or is he, like, what is he, right? And I think that was something that I really wanted to try to get across with this first book. moving into the rest of the series, because it kind of gives readers something to wonder. It gives you obviously a very clear arc to work towards. There's a gray situation surrounding this guy. Like, where's he going to go? What's going to happen? But that all stems from, like you said, I loved the way you put it, the Thanos question.
Okay, so I'm going to take us back a little while, because EL, before he got banned, which is, every show happens. So what is the map on your wall, Scott?
That map is Westeros and Essos. I've got right here in front of me. Actually, I'm just gonna turn this around. I've got that's my world right there. I don't know if you can see that. And then over here we've got that is Middle Earth. And then to the right of me, I've got a Quidditch poster that explains the rules of Quidditch. Right here, I've actually got this just printed off. These are the map prints that are going to be available on my website.
Nice.
This is Ardura. This is my world.
Are those printed on paper or kind of like a canvassy thing?
It is a wall poster. So it is, it's more of a canvas. It is paper, but it's like carved. So it's a little bit, and it's matte, and we're very happy with how they turned out. But like I said earlier, I'm a big map geek. I absolutely love looking at just the small little intricacies that you can see in Middle Earth and that you can find in Westeros and Essos, and the Easter eggs that are just hidden in the map alone, right?
Did you do your own map?
So I drew my map. This professional version, I did not draw. I designed the map. I drew it, like I came up with it. I drew it on a Bristol board, and I had that Bristol board hanging on my wall as I was writing the book. But more recently, I just got Josh Hoskins of Noctua Cartography to do me up these professional maps.
Okay, what Josh, what?
Joshua Hoskins is his name.
Joshua Hoskin?
Yeah.
What?
Of Noctua, NOCTUA _cartography. He is really good. I don't think he's booked up until 2025. There you go.
Right.
And so recently too, I'm not going to reveal this yet, but I have been in talks with another very well-known map maker, and we're getting another one done up for a secret project coming. And this map,
all you guys and your secret projects.
well, this map maker, you're gonna know. People will know who he is, I should say. And I think a lot of people know who Joshua Hoskins is. I don't mean at all to take away from him. He is an incredible artist. He has been an absolute gem to work with. I am completely neurotic, and I probably sent him 40 different messages of little things that he needed to move, a half an inch. Oh no, back a quarter inch. No, sorry, like another half inch that way. Because I was just, I mean,
not going to take your calls anymore, man.
I know. He funny enough, I needed to just do another adjustment for my paperback. I was like, hey man, it's me again. Can you do that? He's like, oh geez, okay, here, I'll send you the invoice.
So Scott, I have just one thing. I mean, we're a small channel.
Yep.
And currently there's only 5 people watching. So if you tell us your secret project, it's still a secret, really.
Yeah,
there's not enough people.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think it's not too much. Just to talk about some future plans. Like we've got the Memory of Song coming out on May 29th. It's going to be available in ebook, paperback, and hardback. On May 29th, it's right now. I'm sure you guys know this. As indie author, I'm doing everything I can to get the paperback and hardback out on the same date.
Mm-hmm.
Those might be delayed. I'm hoping the proofs just come back and they're perfect. I can say live, sell them right now. If that's not the case, I'll be pushing the paperback and hardbacks just a little bit back. So one of the things I wanted to do was try to make a different experience. I know a lot of people, they only like hardbacks, and a lot of people only like paperbacks. One of the things I wanted to do was make the hardbacks and paperbacks a little bit different. So they're not the exact same book, just done over. So one of the things I'm going to do an edition of hardbacks that are numbered, and kind of a special thing with exclusive maps and just kind of a one-off kind of deal, just as an experiment, just to judge, first of all, how many people would be interested. Secondly, to judge if that kind of thing is something that people would want, or if I'm just kind of being ridiculous with it. But I mean, for me personally as a reader, love. I use a paperback. I take a paperback to work that I can just toss around and read it. I don't mind. I don't usually buy hardbacks unless they are special. The only way I would buy a hardback if it was different, and that's probably just me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I really did want to try to make the reader experience different. You know, like you could have a different experience if you're reading the hardback compared to the ebook compared to the paperback, and it's not just. I promise it's not just so I can sell one of each copy. It's just to experiment because I am indie. I can experiment with a different style of book. I have no restrictions on these being the exact same. So I wanted to play with that and be like, okay, they're not, you know, they're not the exact same. And there is this different kind of style. Yeah, I guess that's basically it. It's kind of like a special edition, a faux special edition, say, with full foil on all that. It's just kind of, you know, a bit of a step up from the paperback.
Yeah, and for your first book, that's fair, really, because even if that didn't succeed, I wouldn't say that you should say, "Oh, well, this doesn't work. We won't do this again." Because with your first book, there's a lot of kind of, well, you know, let's check this out, right, and see what it's like.
Yeah.
I think you probably find more success as you go on with those type of things. You mentioned to us before we started that you're doing some blogs and book tours.
Yeah. I've signed up for a couple book tours. Yeah, I think I did Love Book Tours with Kelly Lacey, LBT. You might have seen some of their posts circulating around, and I just signed up with Indie Book Tours as well.
And what's for anybody who's never done one before, Mike and I, what's that like?
Well, essentially what it is there's a coordinator, sometimes more than one, and they will take your book and get different reviewers on different social media platforms to brag about it and talk about it. Obviously it's honest. We want honest reviews, but they basically get a reader copy and they read it, they review it, they make a little post, a little video about it, and post reviews and try to generate some hype. Essentially, like we were talking earlier, we've put together some really nice packaging for our books, with the nice custom wax stamp and, you know, a couple little goodies that you get if you order. And that kind of hopefully makes it more of the reader experience better. And that's a good way to show it off. It's a good way to show off what you're offering to readers, just because you get to have a bunch of people who actually have a platform. And this is one of the things that's kind of going a little off topic, but I've always talked about this. I've said it a few times on different videos, but when you're trying to reach somebody, like if you're trying to engage as an author and you're trying to get your name spread out, right? I think that many people try to reach the readers first. And I don't think that's necessarily I don't think that's a good strategy. That's like trying to, I think, harpoon a fish. You know what I mean? So I look at it more as I'm trying to, first of all, connect with authors, because who are reviewers looking to be friends with? Well, reviewers are trying to be friends with authors, right? They're trying to make connections with the authors. So not to say the authors are the top of the pyramid, but I felt like that was a good place to start. And once you kind of meet a few authors, you see the reviewers, if you don't even meet the authors, you just go and look at your favorite authors and see who's reviewing them. Talk to those reviewers, and those reviewers have the readers. So, I mean, if you can get your book in the hands of a reviewer, you're potentially, you're going to get your book on the eyes of a lot more readers than if you were just trying to throw it into, say, Facebook reading groups or, you know what I mean? So I think
you mentioned earlier, I forget exactly what it was you said, but it's like when you're talking about your group, Mike, what's the name of the group?
Break-ins.
Thank you. That, it's just a bunch of dudes, right?
There's some girls too.
And so I kind of got to wonder, it's most likely that reviewers are the same way, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing big and mystical about a reviewer. They're just some people who dig reading books, right? And maybe have some pent up frustration that they can't write one. Who knows?
I think reviewers are they're, first of all, they're unicorns. They are the absolute gem of the earth because they are willing. For us as authors, who could we love more than a reviewer? Like, they're willing to talk about our book for nothing. I mean, that's amazing. Also, don't pay for reviews. Anyways, they are just absolutely amazing. And I think what it comes down to with reviewers is they are just really good at talking about books. So like you said, they are normal people. It's just they might be better at talking about how they felt about a book than somebody else. And when sometimes as a reader, I'll hear somebody talk about a book and I'm like, yeah, I want to read that now. I didn't think about it that way because I just see the cover or whatever, right? And I think reviewers just have this magical way with words. And like you said, they may not be able to, like, I think a lot of them have written their own books, but it might not even become from frustration of not being able to write, but just they want to write about books, not necessarily their own, just about others. And they're so good at talking about them.
But you think about it. I mean, what they're essentially doing is they are writing a blurb for the book, which is, I haven't met a writer yet who enjoys doing that.
That's what I'm saying. It's a different style. We cannot write blurbs. They are the bane of our existence.
Yeah.
We try to boil down a 150,000 word book to a 200 word blurb. That was like, I had 100 different copies of mine and I'm still not happy with it, to be honest.
Right.
But I just had to stop spending energy on it. But like you said, how do reviewers come up with these magical blurbs? They just have this way of condensing it all, right? And I think that's their skill. And I think a lot of readers don't necessarily have that skill. They have a vivacious reader inside of them that needs to come out. But it's not necessarily going to come out through talking about the book. They want to hear somebody tell them what to read. And I think what it comes down to, too, is a lot of people don't have a lot of time. You don't want to waste some time with a book that's just no good, right? So to follow a reviewer who just knows how to talk about a book and to sell a book, that's the best thing a reader can ask for. So back to what we were saying, as an author, getting your book in the hands of reviewers, they're going to talk about your book better than you could. They're going to sell your book to readers in a way that you just couldn't. And I think that's the power of a book tour, is that's what you're getting out of it, right? You're getting a bunch of salespeople that are just good at it and enjoy it. Where, like you said, sales for us, probably, I mean, at least for me, I'd rather just write. I just want to write the book. Sales is something that I've had to learn, but it's definitely not as enjoyable.
So I have a question. So for the sales part of it, did you go to Sam for that?
For like sales advice?
Yeah.
I didn't go to Sam for sales advice. I'm not trying to say knock on Sam or anything. The reason is just that I don't think, as like our author group, it's hard to come up with any sales strategy. Every book sells differently. And that's just the plain fact of it. One person could do something and it just does not work for another person, right? So what I think we're trying to do in our group is look at something that might have worked for somebody else and see how you can apply that to your own. So where I have tried to model my sales knowledge off of is Ryan Cahill, because who sells more in indie? Probably some, but I don't see a lot. When it comes down to hard numbers, I've really looked into the different strategies he's done. I've watched it for a few years now and boiled it down and tried to figure out. And that's not to say he hasn't figured out either, because if like just talking to him, he's obviously trying different things all the time as well. Yeah. So you just kind of got to roll with your own book, learn how to sell your own book using maybe strategies that work for other people. But it really comes down to, like, so for instance, I've done some promotions on top of the indie book tours and the love book promotions. There are things, they're called list services. So you can pay to get your book sent out in a mass email. These places have like massive following. Some of them have millions. Like BookBub is the king,
right? Or
queen, sorry. And I think there's a bunch of other ones. Written Word Media has a good bunch in their thing. Book Barbarian, Book Raid. There's a ton of them. You can just pay these list services to get your book. So these things offer, especially for free things, you get thousands of downloads for these free promotions.
Yep.
And the difference between 1,000 and 5,000 is your 10-word blurb. Like, you get the blurb is the cover, and then it's a little tiny snippet of your thing. And one book might sell 1,000 where the other one sells 5,000 based off of that 10-word blurb. So I don't know if Sam could come up with that 10-word blurb for my book. You know what I mean? I think at the moment, I think I'm probably best qualified to do that. Hopefully, when Ro starts working for me as my marketing manager, he could come up with something a little better. But
you can do better.
Hey, don't sell yourself short, man.
So, Scott, I have a question I'd like to ask people.
Yeah.
You said there's lots of Easter eggs in your book.
Yeah.
So, have you killed any bad bosses off in your book and just changed your name a little?
Sorry, say that again. Bad who?
And have you killed any bad bosses off and just changed their name?
I've heard you ask this question. I did think about it. I did not do that.
It's very therapeutic.
I would imagine it's therapeutic. Here's the thing: is I definitely considered putting some names in there for different reasons, right? But I chose to not go that route for, I guess, some pretty obvious reasons. But yeah, I went more the Easter eggs that I put in there. They're not really from my personal life, with the exception of a couple of music ones. I tried to, and I'm a big nerd with this, but I'm really into the classics of, like, just the literary classics. And reading through those books, as you get further and further, the allusions to the past books, like every author writes the other author's work into their work,
right?
In one way or another. I was incredibly fascinated by that. And I tried to do that with my fantasy. I tried to take the great fantasy works that we've seen and work the Easter eggs in a way that obviously is not just flat out, like, we're not plagiarizing here, but what I mean is we're taking inspiration, situations. There's one inspiration for, like, instance, not to get into too many spoilers again, which is actually harder than I thought, but I needed to go, there's a place that they need to get into. And I went with the whole speak, friend, and enter.
Nice.
But reworked it, right? And it's obviously not speak, friend, and enter, but that is laced into this. That is completely laced into the final act. And it's completely just ripping off that. And the reason that I did it that way is because the speak, friend, and enter thing, I learned, George R. Martin used it in A Song of Ice and Fire, when Samwise is crossing the wall and he meets, I can't remember his name. He's riding a big elk, but he meets this guy, and there's a whole thing that George R. Martin worked in with basically speak, friend, and enter to cross the wall. And I think that was just absolutely incredible, to have that homage visible in two of my favorite works. I was like, oh, I'm absolutely putting that in to mine, just for my own, I guess, reward trophy. I don't know. Just, I know it's there, and that's great. And now I guess a few other people might, but yeah, the homages from real world, I think they come more into, I worked out personal trauma and personal issues with my characters.
Oh yeah.
Rather than try to just flat out kill a bad boss.
Mike has very achievable goals.
That's right, yeah.
So my work that's going to come out this summer, I actually somebody had one robotic eye and one good eye, and the other guy calls him Polyphemus.
Oh, great. Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, I'm so proud of that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a real author now.
That's what it feels like, because I think you are. I think that's what makes it. Like, because you are now picking up that thread. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, you are the great authors of the past. You've dug around enough that you found something to tug on and pull that along with you. Now you're carrying that. You're carrying all of that with you on your shoulder, all of that legacy.
Yep. Yeah, the guy gets knocked down and his fake eye goes flying, so he only has one good eye left. He's like, well, who did this? And he's like, Polyphemus. Tell him nobody did it.
Tell him nobody. Oh, speaking. So the Odyssey was, I think, it's got to be one of the books that's worked into almost everything, right? Like, because the thing with the Odyssey is that it was the base. So like even Plato played off of the Odyssey.
Yep.
Like how it's probably laced into every single story we've ever heard in one way or another. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I had to read that in college, and oddly enough, I liked it.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've got James Joyce's Ulysses on deck. So I've been holding that off for many years because I tried to read it many years ago before I read the Odyssey. And I was like, I don't understand this. And I know there's going to be a time that I can come back to this and it'll make more sense. And that day is not today. But
Yeah, there's a lot of books out there that I want to read, but I'm like, right now, I just don't have the bandwidth to put a lot of thought into what I'm reading. So it all tends to be light reading.
I get that, Mike, like especially since I've been the past like 6 months since I've been really going hard with publishing, because I've always been going hard with writing, but now adding in the marketing and the business side of it on top of trying to still write is definitely made I still read every day, but it's made what I'm able to ingest. I need to take in some lighter stuff. Like you're saying, it really weighs on the brain to take everything in and think about them deeply. But I struggle to read more than one fantasy book at the same time. Since I've started writing my own fantasy world, I'm always living in my world. So I've got everything running that's happening for the next 5 books, just constantly in my head. So for me to sit down and read another fantasy book, I've got to kind of put that aside. And that's great. It's sparking things in my own world. But now if I put that aside and I start another one, a third one at the same time, everything goes messed up. My writing shit. I forget what's happening in both of those books. I'm like, okay, you can't ingest 3 different worlds at once. And that's fair, I think.
You should start a YouTube channel. That always adds to the fun.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't take any time at all.
Yeah, well, like you guys said, when you're doing your live, I can't imagine I would be the guy that twice a week would record an hour-long video and not have hit record. That would just be me. I know that would be me. So
that's why you do it live.
That's
right. Yeah, you can't really screw it up too much like that.
Yeah.
So I will give you one hint though. If you do your own channel, last month I put out, hey, here's the April list for Bald&Balding. I have 1 spot open. Hit me up if you want it.
Yeah.
And I probably got 12 people at least going, I'll take that spot. We are booked through June. We have 3 spots in July taken. I'm like, okay, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Mike, when we started doing this live, there was a concern that we wouldn't have anybody.
That's true.
So,
we were worried about doing 1 show a week. It's like, can we come up with 4 people a month?
Oh my God, there are so many people in the community. I cannot believe.
it's crazy.
It just keeps expanding and expanding, and I'm like, oh my! Just when I think that I'm like getting well connected, I'm like, oh yeah, I know everybody. There's just mass loads of groups. I have no idea. I was like, who's this person? I don't know who this is. Like,
it's like everything else. It's just so many people. You couldn't possibly. Yeah, and I think what you have with the break-ins is really the best of all possible worlds, in that you have a small group of people that you can really kind of focus on, and then toss a line out every now and then to somebody outside it, but you can always kind of go back to that one thing that's still coherent to you.
Oh, that's been what it is. It's been invaluable completely. Like we've got it's a support group. It's a supercharged support group with 16 people, 15 other people other than myself, all focused on the exact same thing. And that's pretty powerful, man. It definitely it's a combined, it's 15 brains working together.
See, Mike and I are of a generation though that doesn't do support groups, right? Support group is a very millennial kind of construct.
100%. Yep. And
our generation is more like, figure it out, dumbass.
Do it alone, right? And be strong. And that's like, I mean, there is a lot. We still have to do so much of it on our own. But it's just having somebody to ask questions.
It would be fantastic. Absolutely. I very jealous of that.
Well, you can be an honorary member, Ro. And Mike, you too.
I'd have to figure out Discord, and man, Discord. I look at a Discord page and it's just like, Jesus, where's the end, right? Is it the top or the bottom, or I don't know.
That's part of the reason why we did end up cutting it off when we did. just because we were kind of like, we didn't have any more people. We didn't have to tell anybody no. But we were just we made it public, like we're not accepting any more people. And that whole thing, we didn't want to be like, oh, we're the elite group. But it was with risk of becoming another Discord. Like you said, that you just get lost in the labyrinth and then nobody goes on there because, I mean, people do. And like I said, I don't mean to put down anything. There's incredible resources in those big Discords, right? But when you're looking for something more specific, more tailored to the same niche kind of thing, those big Discords, they have a lot of different topics going on, right? Like our Discord has many topics, but every single one of them is related to publishing a book. There's nothing like, we're not even really talking about what are we reading. Like it's basically there's KDP, there's Ingram, there's, we've got our different topics that we talk about, marketing, whatever it is. We share numbers with each other so we can just kind of what's working, what's not. And like you said, it's just, I think I've talked about this in another video, but I think it's something you don't see a lot. It was just really surprising to me that you don't see this in traditional publishing. You don't get the Orbit or the Tor crew hanging out, doing a big panel together. It's just something you don't see, and I couldn't figure out why. And I think part of it to do is in traditional publishing, they want to put one person in front, they want to put 5 people behind, and then 25 people behind them. And they don't want those people mixing. They don't want their number 1 star bumming around with the lower people, telling them how much more money they're getting than them, right? And what it comes down to in indie is that we are not each other's competition. There are, like we were just talking about with the community, this community is just endless and endless and endless. If you start doing promotions like BookBub or use Book Barbarian or anything else written word media, you will quickly learn that there are thousands and thousands of people that you have never seen their name, like you just don't even know they exist, and they're out there, and they might even want to read your book. And to think that one other person is going to get in the way of that, one other author is going to get in the way of you reaching this person. I know people who read 200 books in a year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And to get them to read your book is still a very big honor, don't get me wrong. But what I mean is there's probably room, if you just focus on making your book the best it can be, there's probably room in the market for it,
Yeah, you just have to make that push down the slope, and then it'll build up speed. But yeah, you got to be there to push it. You got
to keep pushing it, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people just throw it, let it roll downhill, and leave it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's obviously it's harder. So one of the things I've learned is the way that Amazon works, if you're going to be publishing through them, is the first 90 days of your publication is very important, right? It's giving, especially as me, I've never published anything on there. So these first 90 days, this is going to be them gathering data on me. Mm-hmm. It's going to be them figuring out how much I can move of this product, how much money they can make off of me, right?
All right.
So I don't necessarily want to think about anything else other than getting as many possible copies moved from Amazon, free or 99 cents, whatever it is. That's the reason it's 99 cents, because we're just trying to get as many possible copies out in that first 90 days. And if you do that and you get a good bit of data behind you, Amazon will help you. Amazon will make that hill steeper, per se.
Yeah.
They will help your ball roll a lot faster. And after those 90 days, you still have to be there to push it, but it's definitely something, it's got to be considered, especially with big marketing companies, big traditional publishing companies. When they're marketing is 1/3 of their budget. And basically 90% of that budget is going in those first 90 days. And it's really getting a big push to see just where you can get it. And like you said, you just try to make a splash, see how those ripples spread. And if you can make a big splash and retain even 10% of a readership moving into book 2, that's where you can kind of build, if you're trying to get a ROI, return on investment, if you're getting into the business part of it. I don't see many indies turning that with book 1. I do see, however, many indies making a very good plan with book 1, with their ROI tied up in book 2.
Yeah.
Basically, we try to make a big platform to build off of, as big as we possibly can. We're going to lose some money doing it. But when book 2 launches, hopefully, you're in a place where you've got some people that want to buy it. and that would be the way to keep that ball rolling moving forward. But if you can't get that ball rolling out to that second release, a lot of indie books go to die. So
yeah.
I was actually talking in a Discord the other day, and that one woman said, yeah, there's a lot of people, they do what we call hope marketing, which is you publish the book and they'll find it and they'll come to it.
Yeah, no, they won't.
Maybe in 2011.
Yeah, one of the other things I said, one of the things that the break-ins is really good for, that I've said this before too, and this wasn't the intention of it, but social proof is absolutely everything. You just need a few people, and like we said, with the Love book tours and the indie book tours and all these different book tour companies you're just trying to get people you're getting social proof. You're getting people that are holding your book. You're like, ooh, pretty. Yeah. Look at this picture. They've got nice candles going and the atmosphere is perfect and your book looks better than you've ever seen it. And you're like, okay, so this is what you're paying for. It's social proof. You need other people to believe in you, because the guy that's standing on the side of the road saying the world's going to end, nobody listens to him, right? But, when the world actually starts ending, they're like, okay, where is that guy again? They like to hear it from other people. They don't.
Do you have a copy of your book?
I don't have a copy yet.
But like a print of the cover or anything?
I don't even have a print of the cover. I pull it up on my phone. I'm in
that. On your phone.
So my proofread is just around the corner. It's due May 11th. My final copy, and then we're uploading that to. I'm going to do a quick read through myself. We're uploading that, and it's all set to go. So I haven't been able to get proof copies yet. But I do obviously have the ebook cover. I've been posting it everywhere to try to get things. I have my next book, my novella. It's a prelude novella, which is serving as the reader magnet. I'll be giving away for free through my mailing list. It's also in editing, so it's coming right around the corner from A Memory of Song. I've got that covered ready too, actually. So I'll be doing a reveal with that, but that's part of the marketing plan for book one. So
he's actually excited about this, Mike. I'm not really sure what to do.
He's new. He doesn't know that it just grinds you down to dust.
Yeah.
That youthful enthusiasm,
Yeah. Well, see, I've already been grinding, and it's just now, this is just my life now. So.
All right.
So, Scott, I have to tell you, you did have at least one purchase today, because I did that while we were chatting. So.
Oh wow! Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for doing that. Make me look bad.
Hey, get this, Mike.
That's what I'm here for, bro.
If you feel so obliged, go ahead and make a couple Amazon purchases now. Like,
I did sign up for
a TV,
your mailing list.
Buy all your Christmas gifts. I'm definitely not an Amazon associate or anything. Like, I don't know.
That's right. All right. Hey, Scott, thank you very much. EL says he bought it too, so look at that.
Thank you, EL. I appreciate you so much.
Even after being banned, he still bought it.
Tim says he tried to order and then remembered he already did. Anything else available?
Yeah, Tim, just buy me a coffee next time. Tim, a double.
I'm one for your friend, man.
A large double. Roll up the rim, baby.
All right. Thank you, folks in the chat, for hanging out with us again tonight, and good luck on your launch May 29th for your debut novel. That's very exciting stuff.
Thank you so
much. You only get to do it once.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going for it. So hopefully we're trying to make the most experience out of it. So we'll see how it goes. It's just one of those, like you said, you put it out there and you forget about it. It's the world's now. So
right. You start grinding on number 2.
That's right.
Hopefully I'll see you in Grand Rapids in November.
Hey, you know what, Mike? I'm actually going to try to do that. So that's not too far. It's not unrealistic. I don't think I'll get a booth, but maybe just come check it out.
Well, if you do, you'll see me standing there trying not to look desperate. But, that's what you do at Comic-Con. So
that's right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It has been great.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. And we'll have to move on to the next person in the break-ins, because we're going to interview you all.
Yeah, who's next? You got done a couple, so we got at least 12 or 13 of us left. So
good. That'll get us through summer.
Yeah, that'll get you through.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody.